riding around the tractor, riding in the bucket. That's classic. I'm glad I can give my kids that same experience. And, growing up with a tractor, I was probably scared in the bucket. They love the bucket. Lila's randomly fearless.
Princess Lila just got lifted to her spot.
Where is our bowl?
I'm not sure why there's so much fuss about Zach and Tori not visiting frequently. They're a young family with 3 little ones, always tied up with their own busy schedules. Perhaps others forget the chaos of raising small children, where every outing becomes a monumental task. Amy, Chris, Matt, and Karen obviously have more flexibility to travel and visit. It's frustrating to hear constant complaints about lack of visits. Maintaining a healthy distance doesn't mean neglecting each other. Similar expectations arise with my parents and in-laws, both boomers, who assume everyone should come to them. However, with a full-time job and kids' activities, frequent visits aren't feasible. The invitation to visit us is always open. Roads go both ways. The dynamics within this family remain largely concealed from us. Speculating on the reasons behind the reduced interactions isn't practical. There's undoubtedly more complexity to the situation than what the show portrays. The overly affectionate display between Matt, Karen, and Amy/Chris felt forced and insincere, highlighting their willingness to do what's necessary for a paycheck. Despite any cordiality, it's evident that Amy and Matt can barely stand each other's presence, and who can blame them? I find it difficult to respect Amy or Matt for not taking action after learning about what happened to Jacob. Initially, I adored this show, but over time, it devolved into typical scripted drama. Despite that, I still found myself tuning in. Zach and Tori appeared to have a good relationship with Karen until the farm negotiations. It makes me question if their opinion changed because they felt she revealed her true intentions during that time. Frankly, Karen had no business being involved in those negotiations, especially considering she wasn't even Matt's fiancée at the time. While she claims to have no interest in the farm or Matt's finances, her actions spoke otherwise, dictating terms and abruptly ending discussions when she felt the offer wasn't sufficient. I'm skeptical of anything Karen says. Her focus has always been on the farm and money. It's hard to believe she would have given Matt any attention if he weren't on TV with millions to his name. Furthermore, Amy's remarks on television seem like a deliberate attempt to assert that any potential move to Idaho would be due to limited access to the kids. I wonder how frequently Tori's parents get to see them. In my opinion, Amy and Chris relocating to Idaho, where Chris has extensive family ties, could be a positive move. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel once again, Red Bee. It's me, ELENA here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, so let's dive into today's video. Moreover, Amy's pronunciation quirks always catch my attention. When she says athletic association, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. And frustrated? That one's hard to ignore. Then there's her take on dictatorial as dictator-ish when referring to Matt. And let's not forget her interesting version of parmesan as parmesan. Oh, and stress ed. That one popped up several times in last night's episode. Additionally, as the fallout from the failed farm sale unfolds, Matt's surprise proposal to Karen catches everyone off guard. In an attempt to foster unity, Amy plans a fundraiser to be held on the farm. Addressing the apparent lack of interest in visiting the farm, Amy clarifies that it's not a deliberate avoidance or holding of grudges. It's simply a matter of the kids not expressing interest and the family respecting their space. While Zach may express his views on TV, there's an underlying tension suggesting unresolved issues. While it's understandable given Lila's nonverbal state during their last visit and Joseph not yet being born, it's hard to believe that Jackson never mentions the farm. Blaming the children for adult conflicts seems feeble. Zach and Tori's relocation to Battleground and subsequent lack of visits appear intentional, unrelated to their children's interests. Similarly, Matt and Karen's portrayal of neutrality seems unrealistic, given their involvement in the situation. As the show approaches its end, mixed emotions arise. While it feels like the right time to conclude, the audience remains invested in the Roloffs' lives, pondering their future. Perhaps there will be a special episode, or fans will rely on social media updates. Regardless, the hope remains for the Roloffs to mend their relationships and grow closer as a family once more. However, the ongoing tension between Zach and Matt is evident, yet now there's a vague excuse about the difficulty in arranging visits to Amy's, despite her being just 30 minutes away. It feels like Tori might be subtly isolating Zach from his family, gradually justifying it along the way. Criticism towards the young family forging their independent life puzzles me. They appear content, as do their children. Perhaps they found a freedom they wouldn't have had on the farm, where Matt might have exerted too much control over Zach's endeavors. Why is the burden of visiting solely on Zach and Tori when the relationship should involve effort from both sides? Those accusing Zach and Tori of sidelining Amy and Matt forget that adults lead busy lives beyond regular visits with parents. We only glimpse a fraction of this family's dynamics. It's perfectly normal not to see grandparents frequently, and perhaps it's healthy for Zach and Tori to carve out space for their own lives, whether intentional or not. Criticizing Zach for his choices seems unfair, especially considering his steps toward independence from the family, the farm, and the show. If there are any villains in this scenario, it's likely Matt and Karen. Making trashy comments about Zach is unnecessary and tacky. Even her own family isn't spared from being iced out. Tori's casual attitude towards her parents moving closer to them, only to suggest they could move back, comes off as selfish and immature. Her refusal of her mom's offer to help during a stressful time indicates a troubling pattern. It seems she's encouraging Zach to adopt a similar dismissive attitude towards his family, as evidenced by her comment about Amy being a mere babysitter. Grandparents are more than temporary help, and if Zach and Tori continue with this mindset, they might find themselves without support when they truly need it. Blaming Tori seems unjustified. Zach is a grown man capable of making his own decisions. Managing 3 young children makes spontaneous road trips challenging, not to mention their commitments to school and extracurricular activities. Zach's strained relationship with Amy has been ongoing. They used to see her infrequently, often relying on Matt and Karen for babysitting. The original rift seems to stem from Amy discussing Zach's engagement on camera, despite his clear request to keep such matters private. On the other hand, just one mishap and heaven forbid, she could hit her head on that bucket. Having lived in a farming community, I've seen this behavior among kids. It's not necessarily smart or safe, but unfortunately, it's common. Tragically, we've heard of far too many accidents involving heavy machinery like skid loaders and tractors. Many parents seem oblivious to potential dangers their kids face. Just look around and you'll see children hanging off shopping carts, treating metal railings as jungle gyms, riding motorbikes without helmets, or being left unsupervised at events. These parents aren't any worse than others out there. The only difference is that these two happen to be on TV. It's concerning to see Leela elevated to tree height with no one to watch over her. If she were to fall out of that bucket, especially without her glasses and given her reputation for clumsiness, she could easily suffer a serious injury. They often mention Leela's clumsiness, likely exacerbated by her lack of glasses and her toddlerhood. Yet they still put her in a precarious situation like this bucket. It's hard to understand their logic. And before anyone suggests otherwise, no, I wouldn't let my toddler, who has no sense of danger, play in a high bucket like that. It's unfortunate, but Zach seems to lack empathy and common sense. Many have praised Tori for her intelligence due to her teaching background, but her actions don't exactly scream teacher. Seeing a baby flopping around with a loose lap belt in the back and a small child hanging on the front is a recipe for disaster. The excuse of "I did this all the time as a kid" is tired and dangerous. Just because something was done in the past doesn't make it safe or acceptable now. Watching Lila not getting out of the bucket left me in shock. I couldn't believe Zach would drive with a baby behind him and a toddler in the bucket. It's truly astounding and left me speechless. However, I've been pondering whether the show could continue without Zach and Tori after they announced this would be their final season. Initially, I thought it might lack interest without them, but upon reflection, the scenes involving Zach and Tori have been rather dull. Matt and Amy, on the other hand, bring much more depth and intrigue to the show, so I wouldn't mind if the show continued without Zach. He doesn't contribute much and seems unwilling to address the significant family issues viewers are eager to see resolved. As for TLC potentially creating a show centered around Zach and Tori, it wouldn't surprise me. TLC has a reputation for exploiting people and their lives, and Zach and Tori have already shown a willingness to share their lives extensively on social media and in a podcast. However, I'm not sure a whole season of them camping in the backyard and riding tractors would be must-watch TV. Regarding Jeremy and Audrey's potential return, I thought I had read somewhere that they were coming back. However, judging from this thread, it doesn't seem likely. Nonetheless, if they were to return, they would probably bring about as much to the show as Tori and Zach. With Karen not returning, it seems like there's little left to film. The children aren't keen on participating, and Karen likely wants to avoid the social media scrutiny. Plus, the farm remains under Matt's control, as it has been since the show's inception. In my opinion, there's not much material left for filming. Similar to the situation with 7 Little Johnstons. If the families aren't interested in participating or don't want their personal lives exploited for the show, there's not much substance left beyond vacations, outings, and perhaps some quirky activities like rolling around in wading pools filled with cranberry sauce, a la 7 Little Johnstons. Ultimately, apart from their height, the day-to-day lives of these families aren't much different from anyone else's. Additionally, why does Zach seem so idle? It appears he hardly lifts a finger. One might speculate that growing up as the only little person in his family made Zach both the golden child and the one who was coddled due to his health issues. When it came to assigning chores, I can imagine he was often passed over in favor of his siblings. Furthermore, Zach has been in the spotlight since childhood, so he never had to pursue a traditional job. Some might envy his seemingly easy life, married, with a home, raising 3 kids. But for those of us working hard, it can be frustrating to see someone seemingly coasting along. My concern with Zach is his constant avoidance of discussing the rift with his dad over the farm. Despite claiming not to care, he brings it up repeatedly, almost obsessively. It feels like he might be using his children as leverage, especially considering how often he mentions the rejected offer he made and questions the value his dad places on the grandkids growing up on the farm. It seems like he's protesting a bit too much. I can't help but think that his dad may have squandered a lot of money they didn't have on building extravagant castles and western towns during a years-long obsession, ultimately impacting his children's upbringing. And the decision to film their lives extensively for a popular pumpkin patch and an extravagant house, possibly used for an affair, likely added another layer of complexity to their childhoods. On the other hand, in the latest episode, it felt like every scene featured someone eating somewhere. Chris and Amy dined at a beachside restaurant. Matt and Karen grabbed a bite at a gorge restaurant, while Zach and Tori's kids snacked on blackberries. Even the 4 exes gathered at the farm with a spread of food and drinks. It's become a noticeable trend that Amy and Zach always seem to have their mouths open while eating, which some viewers find gross and annoying. This might seem like a petty complaint, but it's indicative of the show's decline in quality. Many viewers, myself included, have been waiting for an engaging storyline to develop this season, but it's been lacking. The constant focus on eating scenes, culminating in a drawn-out fundraiser event, has left many feeling bored and uninterested. Perhaps it's time for the show to come to an end. Moreover, imagine the underlying resentment and bitterness in this situation. As of today, it seems Jacob has become Matt's trusted right-hand man, fully capable of managing the physical aspects of the farm. While it may not necessarily lead to Jacob owning the farm outright, having Matt's approval holds weight, even if only subconsciously, for the other boys. It's speculated that Jacob needed a place to live, and Matt allowed him and his family to stay in the dwelling in exchange for farm work. Jacob and Izzy likely didn't have the financial means to offer much to Matt. Meanwhile, Matt expected the other two boys to buy him out of Amy's share of the farm, leading to messy handling of the situation and resulting in Zach's apparent frustration. Some believe that Matt is using Jacob just like he did with his other children, making him work hard with no real reward. Both twins spent a significant amount of time working on the farm in the past. Ideally, Zach and Jer wouldn't harbor resentment towards Jacob. It's likely they've grown indifferent to Matt's actions over time. Jacob's inclination towards farm labor, likely influenced by spending time with Mike as a child, may be a good fit for him. Whether he'll inherit the farm solely remains uncertain, but time will reveal the outcome. On the other hand, I was watching the latest episode, and during Matt's lunch with Karen, he mentioned having 5 grandkids who regularly visit him at the farm, contrasting with Zach and Tori's kids who don't visit. This raised the question for me: did Molly have a baby without any announcement, or perhaps I missed the announcement, haha. Regarding the series' final feel of the episode, it's a bit of a shame they didn't treat it as such. The show deserved a more grand farewell, even if the last few years have been less eventful. As far as we're aware, Molly hasn't had any children. The known grandchildren are Jeremy and Audrey, Ember, Bode, Radley, and one on the way. Zach and Tori, Jackson, Leila, and Josa. Molly and Joel, none known. Jacob and Isabel, Matteo. Karen has a grandson from her son Connor, named Liam. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you agree or disagree? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more updates. Your opinions matter, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.